Good morning, everybody. It is 9 a.m. in New York, 8 o'clock in Chicago, February 10th, 2020. And we're going to go over our economic news events that we have here on Monday. There's really not much going on Monday for the U.S. markets. We have FOMC member Bowman speaking, or he spoke already at 8:15. And then for the Canadian dollar, 8:30 building permits. FOMC member Harker will speak at 3:15. And then overnight, GDP retail sales monitor, Great Britain pound, and then that's at 7:01 p.m. and at 7:30 we have the NAB business confidence. But none of those are red star events. The biggest event or the most impactful event anticipated was Bauman speaking. That's already over. So we really don't have much until the evening, guys, where we are going to have some bigger news events out of the Great Britain pound. We have the GDP numbers out of the Great Britain pound at 4:30 East Coast time, as well as manufacturing, production, construction output, goods trades balance, indexes, services, industrial production, and preliminary business investment. So there's a ton of news tonight for the Great Britain pound, and would expect a pretty big move out of that. For the euro, ECB President Lagarde will be speaking tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. And then Fed Chair Powell testifies right after that, an hour after that. And then a half an hour that, Bank of England Governor Carney speaks. So 9, 10, and 10:30 East Coast time tomorrow, we basically have the English or the UK Bank of Governor speaking. We have the U.S. governor speaking and the ECB governor speaking. So that's a lot of big wigs. And then in the evening, we're going to have news out of the New Zealand dollar. So the New Zealand dollar, Great Britain pound are going to be your currency highlights for tomorrow based on the news calendar. Go ahead and start off with the ZB market here. We're just looking at yesterday, or in the overnight session, I should say, we broke out of the full 50% or retracement short, and now we're just looking for that long. That's that next entry. It's at 161.26 right now. It's a 161.26 would be the anticipated next measured move here. ZN, similar. We broke out of the short in the overnight session, and we're looking for now the full halfway back long. And that is just from the lows of last week, which occurred on Thursday. Come here. To that Sunday night high, and it's a 130.25 right now. A 130.25. I will have an alert just above that level, in case I'm not at my desk, but that 130.25 is the setup. Moving on to the VIX. Interesting stuff here, guys. Last night with everything that kind of occurred, first the market just sold off on weekend developments, and then we actually caught a bid on, there was like a headline about Foxconn reopening its factory, so the S&P got a really aggressive bid. But we've been watching this extension in the VIX from 1735 to low. All right, this traded once to target, traded twice to target. This was the third time to target, and then here was the fourth time. That fourth time traded and broke yesterday, which is technically a trend failure. We failed the short trend off those extensions. Okay, we failed the short trend off those extensions. And then the next long setup broke as well. So we built a little bit of a wedge here in the VIX. So we broke the next long setup, and I have the VIX is high now from the overnight session to low. As long as we stay below that 1640 area, 1645 would be a break. Below 1645, the VIX is bearish. Back above it, we're going to re-engage the long sequence in the VIX. We have still held and retested the major support level from the lows of the year to high. It's the low of the January contract to the high of the February contract. That is still what we are holding as far as support goes. But we haven't really been able to establish a trend after the break just yet. So 1630 is going to be resistance here this morning in the VIX. And if we break above 1640, guys, the indexes are going to be back in a short sequence. The indexes are going to be back in a short sequence. So 1630 is your resistance level there in the VIX. Line that up with index supports. Now, the S&P has traded shorts to targets every single day since the Thursday high. Every single day since the Thursday high. We had last night in the Sunday night session, mentor session, the 3267 quarter too high as a potential support level. We had that as a potential support level going into that Sunday night session. What we also had was downside shorts. Now, since we made those highs on Thursday, the S&P has traded a halfway back short to target once. It traded it twice. Here's 3 times to target. Going into the end of the day on Friday, we had the 4th time to target. The lows of Sunday night were actually that, you can see that negative 61 target in the ES. And then that same high to low, once again traded at 33.30 half. We ran up to 34 half, so it's a pretty big dip in. Traded a second test. We are going to rotate potentially down and complete the 32, 90, 75 profit targets. We cannot validate upside profit targets unless the S&P breaks above the 61. We cannot validate upside profit targets unless the S&P breaks above the 61.8. So the S&P would need to get above 33.3875 to validate the 33.79 profit target. That would tell us, okay, buyers are still here. Now, the VIX also needs to stay below 1640. If we break back above 1640, then this ES upside target is off the table, and we will be looking for entries down into the 32.90.75 profit target. So we're either going to go, probably we're going to know by the end of tomorrow, I would say for sure, that we're either going to complete the 33.79 or we're going to be looking at the completion of the 32.90s. Those are the 2 waves right now in the indexes. Now, the full halfway back from the pivot low from the 31st to high, we can be aware of that level. That level is a 32.85 half. 32.85 half would be just below the current profit target of the short. Just below the current profit target. Right now, we are stuck in between a range at the resistance level at 33.30 half, tongue twister, and then 33.12 half. So that's a pretty solid 20-point resistance and support level. So this is where the range is going to develop. Be very careful taking moves right now in the middle of the range. For the Dow broke the extension from the high of the 3rd to high. Now this traded once to target, and then that same anchor new high broke. You also had an extension to target off that, and then this extension. Just like the S&P, the Dow has been completing shorts from Thursday's high. We traded it once to target. We traded it twice to target. Here's 3 times. This 4th time technically hasn't traded. We haven't gotten back up into this resistance level. So if we do squeeze, I'm really liking this resistance level on a first test. So the Dow is weaker than the ES from that perspective. The ES made it all the way up into its short. The Dow did not. So this zone is a entry that I would look for as of right now. If we make a new low, that'll change. But as of right now, this is a short entry area where I would be looking for a position at 29,163. The NASDAQ, totally different chart. Totally different chart. The NASDAQ has continued to hold its extension. 91.5575 to high. 91.5575 to high. We traded the 50% retracement in a pretty big front run on Wednesday. And then we rallied back to highs. We retested those 38.2s, just this support level down here, and we have rallied back to highs. There was a halfway back long here as well that had its participation from 93.85 to high, gave a free trade. We're coming into a second test. I don't trade second tests, okay? So this would just be me watching to see where we go. Right now, I just cannot get bearish the NASDAQ the Dow has a short setup and the ES has a short setup. The Nasdaq, it's just a market. If you're looking for longs, this is the one you want to trade. It continues to have the best reaction to the long side. So let's point out a couple of support levels below. If the Nasdaq does sell off from here, that would be a first test. One, the full halfway back long from the 27th to high. Okay, that level is going to be right here at 91.98. That is the full 50% retracement long. The other level we need to be aware of is really just the 50% that is untested. And that's at 93.09 quarter. And I have that up on my chart already. So 93.09 quarter is the 50% retracement that was technically front run on Wednesday. That would be a second test of that level, but there's enough time in between these tests that I would imagine there's a whole new set of buyers. That happened last week. We're fully into another week here. The Nasdaq, as long as we stay above 92.73, has upside targets of 95.35. The Nasdaq is its own index. It doesn't necessarily have to follow the Dow and the S&P in their patterns of weakness. The Nasdaq continues to be the market to favor to the long side. Moving on to CL. Just so you guys know, these purple lines, what they mean on my chart, I have this indicator that I built. It's called, there's leg starts, swing marks, and they're leg starts and swing marks. So on the hourly chart, the purple line basically just means it's, a swing low. So that's what we're running into right now. Going into Friday, we had a halfway back short setup in oil that completed profit targets Sunday at the open. We then took that high from Friday, drew to the low, and that gave us our next entry level at 50.52. The 50.52s were front run by 4 ticks. You had to have a front run order of 4 ticks to get in. So that would have been a 50.48. 50.52 minus 4 is 50.48. That is the high right now in oil. We can then take that high to low and to provide us our next entry, which would be 50.11. 50.11 is a halfway back short from the high of the day to the low of the day. If we make a new low, obviously we'd have to move that down. But right now we are bearish below in oil, 50.75. There's no longs to be had. These are just support levels. I'm not a bottom picker. We would have to spend a lot of time down here and break some sequences. Just right now we're back in shorts. There was an uptrend on Wednesday. That uptrend failed. We're back in shorts in oil. And this chart just looks like oil's going to zero. So I'm just going to drive my car around in circles because it's getting really, really cheap. It's time to take that cross-country trip that you've been dreaming of. Moving on to the USD JPY, which looks just like the indexes. It is an extension from the high of Monday to high. This is what the Nasdaq has held. This is what the ES has held. The Dow broke it. The 38.2 is 109.54. 109.54. The 50% is 109.40. If we come back down to this 109.54, I would fully expect us to move into the 109.40s. At that point, it would be a third test without a new high. You can see we continue to see sellers at the top of this range. So I'm not expecting this 109.54 to hold. In fact, if we do begin a sequence lower, so like you'd have to go to like a smaller time frame. Let's say look at the high of the day to the low. Yeah, we basically just completed that halfway back short. That next measured move at 109.73, I would expect to hold and actually lead us lower down into the 109.40s. I do expect a test of 109.40 either today or tomorrow, and that would be a support level. But if that support level does not hold, we are breaking trend at the top of the range. I know this is a lot of stuff on my chart right here. These are just Fibonacci time sequences, but we would be breaking trend at the top of a range. We've really failed to get out of this. This is a daily chart. We've failed to get out of these highs over and over and over again, and we could go all the way back to the 108 level. All right, so I'm going to be paying close attention to look for an entry around the 109.73 level to trade down into the 109.40s. AUD USD going lower. This thing has no hope. It's just absolutely destroyed. Look at this weekly chart. All right. There was some longs that tried bidding towards the end of the year. They failed. 10-year monthly, oof, dirty. The full 50% retracement short from the high of 2019 to the low has a downside target of 65.30. We're trading 66.78. It's 300 pips below. We had an extension last week from the low of Wednesday to low. Trade to target. We just held the same anchor new low. We have a downside target, two of them actually, near 66.42. 66.42. The entry into the trend would just be a full halfway back short at 66.91 right now. And the euro also getting destroyed in an extension. We have completed profit targets. We have the low anchor from 109.92s, which is from the 29th. Our entry was 109.69, the target 109.36. That is technically completed. Therefore, we can look for a same anchor new low and then mark up that zone, right? Starting with the 109.51s. 109.51s. Bearish below 109.67. Bearish below 109.67 in the euro. The Great Britain pound USD, there's two different levels I'm liking. Last night, Sunday, I gave the 129. It was 129.45 last night, but then we made a new low and it moved down to 129.40. The current resistance level is 129.40, and if we break above that, the next resistance level would be 129.64. Great Britain pound economic numbers are the GDP is going to be tomorrow, or tomorrow in the middle of the night, 4:30 East Coast. So something, a currency pair to pay attention to. But we actually completed in the overnight session. Show you guys this. This is where our rally is coming from. It was the high of the gap down to low. Completed its target, a profit target there. So that swing high too low, we easily could rally up into that level. It's like a 129.70. So that would be, I'm just going to move this up here because we've already traded that zone. The 129.70 zone would be the next level of resistance above if we do get above 129.40s. If we do get above 129.40s, there would be nothing until the 129.64 and the 129.70 for Great Britain pound USD. And then gold. Last night, guys, for those of you guys who were in the mentor session, we went over this trade setup, the 15.71.9. Well, that traded perfectly. 15.71.9 traded perfectly, and we've caught a bid. We're making our way up to the 15.84 profit targets. 15.84 profit targets. There is an economic news event, CPI, on Thursday. That's going to be the big mover in gold, but gold has targets on the daily and weekly to the upside. Daily, weekly, and even intraday to the upside. Once we complete that 1584, we'd look for that next measured move, but also just be aware of the full halfway back from last Wednesday's low to high. Right now, that's 1565.7. 1565.7 is where that level is now. And actually, I want to go over copper instead of silver here. We are sitting in a big halfway back here in copper, and we are just basing here. So I am just going to be paying attention to this. If we hold above the 61 all week and continue to hold it, right now there was a breakout in copper, and then we traded the long free traded, but now we're back in short. So we would need to get back above 256 to revalidate this long setup. So back above 256 to revalidate copper's long setup, and then I'll take a look at it. But this is just a really big halfway back in copper that I'm paying attention to. But that's going to wrap up this morning's trade plan. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to share it with anybody who you might think would find this video valuable. If you're interested in joining the Startup Trading chat room, click the link below. And then also I believe I put a link for a free futures trading course if you're totally new to it in the YouTube description. Anyways, everybody take care. Have a fantastic day. Trade safe. And I'll share all of the levels that I just went over with the members of the Startup Trading chat room.